and welcome to the Melbourne Mayor Podcast. This is Jesse, and I am the producer here at Space Coast Podcast, and with me in the studio is the great Mayor, Paul Alfrey. How are you, Paul?
Hey, pretty good, Jesse. Hey, tonight's Thursday. It's a special night.
It is Thursday.
Well, and I have League of Cities, so normally we try to do this on Thursday nights, but tonight would be a good night. We have a great guest in the studio tonight with Keith Donald, and we're going to talk a little bit about last night's council meeting, the big move by the city of Melbourne for affordable housing, and we'll talk about the issues. One of the number one issues on people's mind is affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing. There's multiple names, but the reality, it's a roof over your head. So and we're in I would say nationwide crisis for housing, especially Florida in our area where it's booming and people are coming here and the cost is up and so many people don't understand the way the housing works and when it comes to affordable housing. We all remember how affordable housing and like the projects or New Jack City back years ago, and
Right.
so it's a little different now, and so one of the things as mayor I do is I try to surround myself with the people that really know the system and housing and
Right.
finance and so on. So one of those people is Keith Donald, and I'd like to introduce him. Hello, Keith.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk about housing, talk about Steadytown and the work that we do to try to advance housing in the city of Melbourne.
Mm-hmm. And you're a partner with the city, and that you've been a partner for quite a few years now.
With the city and with the nonprofit
Yeah.
sector here in Melbourne. So I've started my sort of second career.
Okay.
My background's in software engineering, software development. But back in 2013, really started getting involved in nonprofit work.
Well, it's scary because your initial background is in IT. Would it be
It
IT?
is software,
And we're having a software issue right now on Facebook.
That's right.
You can't fix that?
Maybe
Nice.
not with all these new cloud technologies.
Oh, I understand. It's you come and we have issues,
Yeah,
but
we don't
no,
have control of it.
we don't have control of it. It's run away. But so tell me a little bit about Steadytown and
Yeah.
what it does, and tell me about that.
It's my family's private foundation, me and my wife, Carrie.
Okay.
And we started it in 2013 to work on issues that we felt were very important in our local community here in Melbourne. We've lived in Brevard over 20 years. This is our home where we're raising our family, and we wanted to work on first, we wanted to get involved in the community, and that's how I got introduced to great nonprofits like the South Brevard Sharing Center, like the Daily Bread, to really understand what issues we're facing, just everyday residents and citizens. And one of those issues that we learned very early on in our work was the lack of safe and decent affordable housing,
Right.
and how that made life harder for working folks and folks from our low-income population. And how that's become more acute over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, now you need quite a bit of money just to afford an apartment.
That's right. So early on, I did a lot of volunteering with the South Brevard Sharing Center, hearing those stories, hearing stories about seniors being priced out of their homes because maybe an apartment was built and it was affordable for a while, but then it was sold and it was converted and the rents were increased, and that makes life tougher for folks.
Yeah.
So we really saw a need to work in partnership with the city and with the nonprofit sector to build more affordable housing that would be dedicated
Right.
for
Okay.
folks that were lower income and dedicated for the long term. And that's how I got involved in a project like Heritage Park, trying to make something like that happen, which and so that's an affordable development that was financed in 2018, that was came online in 2021, and it created 108 units of affordable housing that are dedicated for 50 years. So we know it's going to be there. It's being managed by a nonprofit. It's mission-based. I see a lot of value in projects like that because we know that housing is going to be there. It's going to be available to working folks. They just need a safe and decent and affordable place to live.
What I find interesting about Heritage Park, and if you put up the picture, did something here in Melbourne. It's absolutely gorgeous. If you were to look at this, and it doesn't look like, it's not your typical affordable housing. If you were to look at that, you could that could be luxury apartments. I mean, if you look at it, it's a beautiful place, and that's in Melbourne, and that was just like you said, just went online.
Yep, it's 108 units. That's a $13 million building, and it's a diverse community. So you have folks living there, earning $20, $25 an hour, working in manufacturing, working maybe as a small business owner, and you've got folks that are on fixed incomes that are extremely low income, that now have a safe place to live, that may have been at risk of homelessness at some point. And that's what we really, when we got into understanding what makes a vibrant community, being able to build units that offer a mix, to be able to serve, because the need is great, whether you're making $11 an hour and you need a place to live, or you're making even $20 an hour.
Right.
Rents have gone up 30% in the last 2 years. The average rent for a 2-bedroom is around $1,700.
Wow.
That's hard to swing that. So at Heritage, the rents are priced at those different income levels. So, if you're making around $20 an hour, you might be paying $1,000 a month for rent. If you're in a range from $11 to $15 an hour, you might be paying $750 a month. And if you're extremely low income, it might be lower than that.
Right.
But it's affordable based on your income, and there's a mix of units priced at the 4 different income levels.
I think what we learn now, especially as me as mayor, what I learned now is that, anything like this could happen when in regards to rents and, the escalation. But having places like this online increases the volume out there, and increasing the volume, supply and demand, that helps bring those rents back down. I mean, and so when you put this online, how long did it take to fill it?
So we started work on Heritage Park with all the partners in 2017. So it took 3 or 4 years to get it financed and built.
Right.
And then we started the process of lease up in May of 2021, and it opened in September of 2021. From the day that we opened applications, and we ran the kind of operations center out of Joe Davis Center, right next door, right across the street from the building, the application list filled up in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So the demand was already there, and we were recruiting residents locally. So this wasn't advertised on some big national circuit or even regional circuit. This is the purpose of affordable housing, is to serve the demand,
community.
the community, and the demand that's they're already there for it, because there's a unit shortage. Most of the units that are coming online are catering to our median income. In Brevard County, that's over $80,000 a year right now. So for those that are making less, affordable housing is dedicated for them. And these are folks, that live here, that just looking for an affordable place to live.
So my question for you would be this: how do we, as a community or society, get away from the stigma of, quote, affordable housing? Because anytime that you say affordable housing, you got negative terms. I mean, it's negative. How do we get away from that? Can we?
I think it's always good to tour a development and to see the community.
Yeah.
And I was really pleased to hear you stopped by Heritage.
Yeah.
And made a point to do that. Speak to residents. Really see what the community's like. These are regular, decent folks.
Oh yeah, they're regular people, just like you and I.
That are longtime Brevard County and Melbourne residents that take pride in their community, that are working folks, and everybody goes through hard times from time to time.
Sure.
And for that you've got great agencies that provide good support to help folks work through problems with the help of their friends and family. When tough times do come, but again, I think it's important when you build community to build diversity, to serve a range of folks and from all kinds of different backgrounds. So I can tell you there's folks working in manufacturing and landscaping and healthcare, in public service, living at Heritage Park. They're seniors, they're retirees that serve as role models for young adult families and single moms. It's a diverse community, and I think that's part of it is building that diversity in the design, and also just when you have the opportunity to visit a development that's doing it well and is well run, do so.
And one of the things that was brought up last night, I was pretty impressed, but that, you know, Heritage Park recently won the Keep of Our Beautiful award.
Yes, it did. So
It did.
So one of my passions. So with Steadytown, we learned. I came to the conclusion. A couple of issues are very important to Carrie and I that we want to work on. That give us meaning for this kind of second phase of our careers. One is affordable housing. The other is environment and water.
Sure.
And so Heritage is a unique project because it's on 15 acres of land. So when we worked with our partners on the design, we wanted to preserve as much of that green space as possible.
Yeah.
And we want to incorporate features like a large rain garden in the design of the stormwater engineering, a fully native landscape. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it
because
is.
that went into the planning, and that was something that we were passionate about making an investment in. And I think that adds to the community, folks. It definitely makes the community cooler during the summer, because there's less pavement and more green space. But certainly, it's therapy for me,
Right.
nature and appreciating, the just natural beauty of Florida, and incorporating that into the design of some of these developments. We tried to do that at Heritage.
Well, I will say I've seen the evolution over the last couple of years of what you've accomplished, and last night was kind of a testament of really you and what your team has done for the affordable housing. Initially, as you know, I tried about 2 years ago. We got some of the CARES Act money, and one of the things I believe was that we needed a comprehensive facility regional wide, to address some of the homelessness, mental health issues, etc. I still believe we need it, but something like that needs it's not cheap. You need the funding from multiple cities. You need it from state partners, county partners. There's no way a city, any single entity, is going to burden that.
That's right.
You can't. I mean, financially, you wish you could, but you can't. And what we noticed even over the last 2 years, that housing has really went from kind of being near the number one, if not number one, to like off the chart.
That's right.
There's nothing. I mean, you can't. Right now, if you were to say what's more important, housing or the lagoon, people will say lagoon, and people yell housing, 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 and so. Really, this has evolved to the point where we had money sitting there. What last night our council chose was to put $4 million of CARES Act money toward affordable housing. We awarded a couple of the $500,000 grants. The South Brevard Habitat for Humanity was one of them, but the other one for a similar project to this. Now. There's something that just came down the state pipeline, and you're familiar with it. It's called the Live Local Act. And what the state has done, and I'll pull it up here because it's pretty extensive, but put a substantial amount of money, I think it's $1.5 billion over 10 years toward affordable housing and those initiatives. But it requires cities to do certain things and make land that we don't use available for affordable housing and kind of post it on a website. The list is pretty, long.
Right.
You can bypass zoning. If you were going to do an affordable housing project, you really cities could dictate, you got to do all that has been taken out, and it's kind of a mean to make it more attractive to build affordable housing. I serve on the Melbourne Affordable Housing Committee, and one thing that we just did was change a lot of those code requirements. And when we got it all done, it's funny, Live Local kind of preempted it and said, look, we're doing all this, which I'm thankful for. It's anytime the state is going to kind of pony up and put some money into something and make it easier for us to do this. So the Live Local Act. Now, about 10 years ago, there was a big issue with the Daily Bread moving. Wasn't the time, wasn't the place, and it caused a lot of friction. And one thing I'm not here to do is to bash Daily Bread. They've done some amazing things. Matter of fact, they've been a partner with the city, and you've worked with them. But they've really understood lately the need for the housing.
That's right.
Housing has become really to the point that you can treat symptoms all day long, but as it becomes harder to obtain the housing, or you can say to someone, get a job, clean up, become a productive member of society. Oh, and by the way, you need $2,000 a month instead of $700, where it was 2015.
That's right.
So they've understood a lot of this, and really it came to fruition that Jeff News had said, look, we're really got great partners in you and the Brevard Homeless Coalition and working. We really want to focus on kind of affordable housing, and I will tell you this. The number one project that came up was Heritage Park. Look how successful this has become. That 100, you talk about it throwing 108 units on.
Yep.
And it fills up. And when I go there, it's clean.
Yep.
It's award winner, and that's almost a model that you go, maybe we need to be doing this a little bit more.
Yep. And Jeff, talking to his clients, I mean, that's what they want. When his clients that are engaged, that are participating in services, what they want more than anything is just a decent place to live, to get their lives back on track. And it's hard to deal with your issues when you have no stable place to be.
Right.
And I know they've done placements at Heritage. They've been very successful.
Yeah, I remember going by there, and there was an older black gentleman that was getting off work, and it was dark, and he was the nicest guy. He's probably in his 60s, and he's like, I need to get, I'm going to walk. And he was going to walk from there to, he was staying at a hotel on Airport Boulevard. It was like 3 miles. It was like 7:30 at night. I'm like, hey, man, let me give you a ride. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, get in. So I get in, and I'm talking to him. And he has no idea I'm the mayor. I mean, I don't say I'm the mayor, but he gets in and gives him a ride. And the guy said, oh, I had a great day at work. It feels good. I'm going to go home and take a shower and such. And so a lot of people don't see that there's people just wanting to go home. They want to get off. Yeah. They want to go to work. They want to get off work. They want to go home, take a shower, watch some TV, and then and just be a productive member of society. Yeah. So that kind of clicked to me and said, look, you know what? The hotel's not cheap. The model of putting people in hotels, it's temporary.
That's right. And rent assistance going to a 2-bedroom apartment that's not very nice, that's old, that maybe has been sold and is not very well managed, isn't a great investment either.
For profit.
That's right.
Clearly for profit.
At Heritage, it's new, it's nice, it's well maintained, it's nonprofit, it's dedicated, it's going to be there. That's a better investment in my view.
Yeah.
It's a better value for the city. And of course, we leverage state funds to be able to construct it.
Right. We have property on Sarno Road, and we discussed the disposition of land for a similar project to Heritage. And that is something that I believe will happen the next meeting. And here's what I would tell people, because some people are going to be like, why are you putting affordable housing there? We're not putting anything there, because the reality, the property next to it that is being used as well, they don't even need to go to the city now with a live local. Mm-hmm. And I would tell people, it gives the city, not only will we donate land we're not going to use, but it gives the city the ability to maybe put some conditions on the property we're giving out that ensures the citizens, it gives them this reassurance that, look, you're not having a daily bread, or you don't have the bad, because everybody sees the negative, and the negative's real. I'm just going to be frank. I talked to, but that's an outdated model to the point where they understand that 33 years is hard to do something. Yeah. It's hard to even hold a job for the same job for 33 years. Things change. If I was asked, anybody that's been in software, computers, police work, has your industry changed in 33 years?
Absolutely. I mean, the cloud, AI, very much. Yeah.
And it's changed. So that the thought process now is, focusing on the affordable housing aspect, having the right organizations like yourself to manage them, the nonprofits to run it. I'm a firm believer that government doesn't do things well. The nonprofits will leverage, dollars. The return on investment is much higher with the volunteers. You for example, the downtown Melbourne Main Street. I mean, they have probably around 250 volunteers throughout the
Right.
year. What would that cost the city?
Right.
How many volunteers do you deal with? Quite a
Yeah.
few.
Yeah, I mean that's the strength of Daily Bread for its
Yeah.
30 years history is
Yeah,
getting-
and they've done a lot of great things, and I see now that and they are closing. I think the fact when they close and they sell their properties and they really focus on what their new what the future brings,
Right.
the affordable housing, the fact and really focusing on the biggest need in the community right now. So there are some always naysayers. There's naysayers on everything, but the reality is and I would tell people with the Live Local Act, they can construct that without even the city. They don't even have to go through the city.
Yeah.
They don't have to go through zoning or not. Like they can build it. Matter of fact, your project would be easier to build now under the Live Local Act
with greater incentives.
with thank you, with greater incentives.
like a property tax exemption.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
would help.
Yeah, which would help. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being seeing that that will that solve our problem? It definitely will help.
Yeah, I think we take it one project at a time. Every unit that we can add that's dedicated affordable housing for our community helps.
Yeah.
It helps with preventing homelessness. It helps with providing housing for people to get to work, which is important for economic development.
Right.
I mean, every unit helps. So whenever we sit down to do a project, we want to get as many units as we can. So at Heritage, we were able to take it from it was planned for 80 units initially.
80.
We turned it into 108.
Right.
At this project that we have the opportunity now to work on, we're going for 120 units.
Right. Nice.
And that'll make a big impact. And the demand is already there. Melbourne residents are ready today to move in. And that's going to be a good thing for our city.
And I'm gonna say this out loud. We've approved quite a bit of premium apartments for our engineers moving in. That they're coming to work at the airport and
Yep.
who may not blink at $2,000 a month for a one bedroom. And I mean that market is there. But if that market is there, the market is there also for attainable housing and workforce housing.
Yeah. Most of the units that are being built are catering to people making more than $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
But not everybody's at that level. You've got households making $60,000, $50,000, $40,000, all $20,000 a year, $11 an hour. They need housing too.
Well, even if they're making, let's say, $60,000 a year, that doesn't go near as far now than it did
doesn't.
2 years ago.
It doesn't. So the more housing we build, that'll reduce inflation in and of itself, which will help with rents across the board. So.
And if you were to, and like I had stated last night, if you look at that area, you have multiple apartments or condos nearly, to the east, to the south, being built to the north.
Right.
So it's really it serves a public purpose for that. And really, I'll tell anybody, look at Heritage Park, and tell me that you wouldn't live there.
Yep.
I would.
Yeah, and if you look at the history of Melbourne's affordable housing project, so Heritage happened in 2021. That's when it opened. Before that, it was Parkway Place in District 5, which was 2009. Wickham Club, 2007. We haven't had a lot of projects, to your point. I looked at the building permits for last year. Across Brevard County, there were about 1,000 multifamily units built. 90 of them were affordable.
Wow, less than 10%.
Less than 10%. So these projects aren't happening a lot, but when they do happen, it adds a lot of value for our community, and it does serve a public purpose. It's serving the need where the market's not building these units. It helps when government steps in to provide the financing to help get these units built and dedicated, so we know housing is going to be there for lower incomes that are just working folks that are an important part of our economy as well.
Yeah. So tell it. So for some of our listeners that may not understand, so how does the like the Brevard Homeless Coalition play a part in this?
Good question. So the BHC is our main administrative body for funding related to homeless services, which can include funding for affordable housing, because building affordable housing prevents homelessness. So it's another way to access federal and state dollars for affordable housing.
Yeah.
So they're an important partner. all of the entitlement communities here in Brevard County, which includes Brevard County, Titusville, Cocoa, Melbourne, Palm Bay, receive dollars as well.
Correct.
And those are other opportunities that for making investments in projects like this to get units built and online. And then you have state dollars through the state's housing trust fund that are really important, and the low-income housing tax credit program. Those are other major sources of funding for affordable housing. And it's the more we work together to build capacity to be able to bring dollars together from different sources to get quality developments built, the more units we'll build. And then if we know what we're doing for operations, the projects will be sustainable, they'll be well maintained and well managed, and folks will love living there.
Right.
Like what's happening at Heritage. It's financially sustainable, it's successful, it's making a difference in people's lives, it's serving an important community need. The market's not going to do it by itself. Market's doing its thing, but it's important that we're also building affordable units at the same time.
Yeah, and we're definitely doing that. And what I like about it too is if you look at the project without telling anybody, if I could probably go around and ask people, where is that project in Viera? And I'm wondering, people probably would not know that project is not in Viera.
It could pass in Viera.
Oh yeah, it could pass.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The color scheme is similar to.
Well, it
development
almost
in
looks
Viera.
like next to the avenues.
Picked it.
Think about
it.
What do you?
It is.
Yeah,
there's a development in the avenues that's very similar.
yeah.
to color.
What do you think about
It's
the
a
new color scheme of the project in Viera? And ask them, see what they'd say
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting, and kind of how they do that on like the social media.
Yeah, I think that's an important principle in affordable development. We want to build developments that are beautiful, that we live in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
People deserve dignity in the housing that's available to them, and that's a big part of the Heritage vision and the way it's operated today.
Well, and I'll tell you also that people that live there, they appreciate their home more. When
That's
you
right.
have that, you have people collectively wanting to, to ensure that it's clean, that their neighbors are doing the right thing, and
That's right.
and so it's similar to the broken window theory in law enforcement. If you let something go, it's going to get worse.
It'll
So
go.
you have the proper management to the point where, look, you're going to live here, you're welcome here. The place is going to be kept up because we have a waiting list. If not,
Yep.
you're more than welcome to move out, but we want you to stay. But that's how it's got to be.
So at Heritage, there's a resident advisory council that has basically leadership responsibility in helping run the development in
Mhm.
partnership with the operator and the developer. And I think that's an important principle. It really instills within the community, hey, this is our home. We're looking after it for each other. There's a neighborhood watch effort associated with that as well. It's just
Mhm.
part of just ensuring a safe and secure community that people take pride in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you again, one thing that I've been very successful at. I mean, there's always naysayers on things like this, but I will tell you this: when you run a city, you represent everyone in the city, and there's people that that may not have much of a voice, but they're just as important. And what I've kind of learned, even on the homeless, you hear some people, well, they're homeless, they want to be homeless. That may be true with that person. There's some people that want to live off the grid. There's some people that moved to Grant because they want to have property. But there's also the mom and the kid that is probably a half a paycheck away from being homeless themselves.
That's right. And I've found most people are good people and
Oh, yeah.
decent people and want to be better. And when they're when facing something like homelessness, you're seeing somebody going through one of the toughest experiences of their lives. The best thing you can do is help them overcome that. And that takes support. It takes meeting people where they're at. And I've found that treating folks with dignity, and I think that's an important. I mean, you see that value in our nonprofits here, like Daily Bread, like the Sharing Center. Folks are treated with dignity despite going through some tough circumstances, and most people are going to get through it and be better on the other side of it.
And what I'm glad to have you on today, because one thing I noticed that you don't do well is toot your own horn. And you don't. It's like you're working so hard in the background,
Yeah,
and
I'm a
you're
background
always
guy.
giving everybody the credit, and your partners and stuff. But you and your team do a substantial amount for the for the development of the affordable housing, and really, I will tell you, even all the other my fellow council members, when you come up, we know you have the experience. You are kind of one of our go-to people,
I appreciate it.
and that's definitely when you're conducting a council meeting, even if you're just on the dais as a council member, when certain people walk in the room, either are they there to speak, are they lost, do they have a complaint, are they looking for for an agenda item, whether it's engineering, then you have some people that you go, you know what, that person there, that they understand affordable housing, they understand engineering, they understand water, and they're here for something important.
That's right.
And that's why you go through the agenda item. And last night I called you up and we were talking about where I think is, that the CARES Act money, $4 million of it, I think that's pretty substantial toward affordable housing. I really think that's huge.
I do as well. And I think the Brevard Neighborhood Development Coalition, or Neighbor Up, Habitat for Humanity, those are two great organizations, important organizations. Macedonia Community Development Corporation. So, I mean, this is really making investments in our nonprofits to build more housing, which is a great investment for the city to make.
Yeah, and that's something that CARES Act money we didn't ask for it. They put it in our account for the city, and we had the option to utilize it how we feel the best. And right now I'm just lucky to say, hey, this is something that my fellow council members, I asked them to put that toward affordable housing, and they've kind of blessed it to support that, and I appreciate what they did.
I do as well.
And so what else? Anything else?
No, I think.
So you're excited about the new project?
I'm very excited. I think this is a unique opportunity to bring together several sources of local dollars from the American Rescue Plan and private funding as well to create 120 units of new, beautiful housing that's going to be good for the community. That's going to be a source of stability for our residents that are working folks. That's going to help with our economic development. It's going to ensure a balanced approach to development. Every unit helps. It's going to help with our homelessness problem. And it's going to be a beautiful community and building to tour that'll be an asset for many years to come. So I'm very excited to be involved in it. I'm looking forward to getting going on the next phases of it.
Yeah.
And that's really about, you've got pre-development to get through. Once, if we've taken the next steps, underwriting, getting into construction. People have asked about time frame. I think it's possible to get something done and break ground next year.
Early next year, right?
We'll see. But the urgency's there, right? And it does take time to build. But figuring out the financing is one of the hardest pieces. But
especially now.
Yeah, that's
with
right.
the interest rates and oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ask any builder, any realtor, anybody, they'll tell you this is a tough time right now to build.
But we know we need the units yesterday. So,
yeah, we do.
So we try to approach it with a sense of urgency. And I do take that seriously. I have an engineering background. I think where my approach comes from, is just focusing on trying to solve problems. This is a great opportunity to do something that'll make a major lasting impact for the city, and I'm privileged and proud to be a part of it.
And the only thing that I ask for that you can kind of keep an eye out for me is, I want the same sense of feeling of the greenage. I want people to go there and go, man, this is nice. This is, this is. I want it like Heritage Park. And if you can, you'll promise me that, right?
I will promise that.
So
that is a passion of mine.
Yeah, and I know, I know it is.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that with.
So
with me.
we can get that done, and that's all. That's gold. So we can do something great. So I appreciate you coming on tonight. At the last minute. Normally we do our podcast. We try on Thursday nights. Thursday's a good night. Everybody's ready for Friday. But going over the League of Cities and having all this done with the meeting last night. I appreciate you just saying, hey, I can show up, whatever I can do to support the affordable workforce housing in the area. So I really appreciate you coming on because you're taking your time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me, Mayor. It's been a pleasure.
And what about you, Jesse? You've been over there to sleep.
No, I've been paying attention. I'm excited. 120 affordable units is a great addition to what we need.
Yeah,
'Cause-
1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
Right.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
So bigger families, individuals. I mean,
A
yeah,
mix.
people need different sizes for what they need. The retiree, that widow or widower. They're gonna need something different than a single mom with 2 kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight on a special edition of the Melbourne Mayor Podcast with Jesse Hall from Space Coast Podcast. A little bit of technical issues, but that's okay. You got them worked out. We're on YouTube. And Keith, looked at your background. You see Alabama, something in Alabama.
Yeah.
You an
Both sides.
Alabama fan?
And alumni.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I moved to Brevard.
Have you guys ever won a
2000.
football championship? I was just
A
wondering,
few. We weren't any good when I was in school. Though,
Oh,
so
okay.
It came later.
Yeah, it's like every other year, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. You have a good night and be safe. And you know what? Stay out of the heat, right?
Absolutely.
Stay in the kitchen. Stay out of the heat.